Imagine waking up one day, you stretch out in this incredibly luxurious bed, you're eating amazing food, only to realize with sudden, absolute horror that you're actually living inside the impossibly hard, totally unforgiving dark fantasy game you used to play. A game called Psychedelia. And you haven't reincarnated as the legendary hero. Nope, you're Alan Palacio. You're the doomed, totally talentless third son of a hopelessly corrupt noble family that's basically destined to be wiped out in the game's opening act. That is the terrifying reality our protagonist faces in this explainer. He literally has 10 years to live before the world is completely destroyed.
So I gotta pose this question to you. How exactly do you survive a doomed game world when your character has zero talent, absolutely no special perks, and a massive target on their back? Well, if you're a gamer, you already know the answer. You don't play fair. You min-max your stats, you break the system, and you mercilessly exploit the game's code. Today, we're unpacking Elon's brilliant step-by-step masterclass in surviving an unwinnable scenario.
Here's our tactical survival playbook. We're going to be looking at 4 main strategies today. First up, his preemptive strike. Second, aggro management. Third, the labyrinth constraint. And finally, surviving the outer gods.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1, preemptive strike, neutralizing the bosses early.
So how do you stop the world's destruction? You stop it before it even begins, right? In Psychedelia, the world gets wrecked by 5 catastrophic bosses known as the 5 Great Sins. But Elon realizes this massive loophole. Right now, 10 years before the apocalypse, these world-ending threats, they're just vulnerable, abused children scattered all across the continent. His tactical move here is brilliantly simple. He hires a loyal knight named Evan to track these kids down, rescues them from human testing centers and illegal slave markets, and sponsors them through an isolated orphanage. By just giving them a safe environment, he completely prevents the dark, horrific trauma that triggers their awakening as villains in the first place. He essentially deletes the main destruction flags of the game's plot right out of the gate. And the irony here is just incredible. By treating these NPCs with basic human decency, rescuing them, writing them letters, giving them tailored gifts, Elon fundamentally rewrites their coding. Utia, the sin of wrath who was supposed to cause mass death, becomes a devout nun and the leader of his secret intelligence network. Dios, the kingdom-destroying sin of sloth, becomes the youngest master knight of Caliban. Solalingam becomes a champion gladiator reclaiming her tribe's glory. Rai becomes an elite magic appraiser. And Raiden, he becomes a pirate captain who clears out corrupt syndicates. Elon transformed these catastrophic threats into highly skilled, fiercely loyal allies, without even trying to command them. It's a real game changer. Moving right along to Section 2, aggro management, the art of playing the fool. Now, getting rid of the endgame bosses is great, but Elon still has to survive his immediate threats, which is his own villainous family. To do that, he needs to keep his aggro, his threat level, as low as possible. But what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer dramatic irony of his situation. His entire strategy is to do absolutely nothing. He just wants to live a lazy, unnoticed life as an incompetent, illegitimate noble, completely avoiding the bloody succession war between his drug lord and mob boss older brothers. But because of his secretive actions to save the 5 sins, the world's perception of him gets completely warped. To them, his silence isn't laziness. Oh no, it's the calculated calm of a terrifying, cold-blooded mastermind who secretly rules the underworld from the shadows. It's hilarious, honestly. Every single attempt he makes to step back accidentally buffs his terrifying reputation. His villainous brothers end up eliminating themselves or getting assassinated by Alan's loyalists. Meanwhile, Utia forms a secret organization called the Blue Moon to violently wipe out rival criminal cartels, all in Alan's name, completely without him knowing. Feared syndicates like House Altia and House Zenonia are so terrified of this imaginary 4D chess master that they voluntarily swear loyalty to him. He literally attends a council meeting just to sit in the back and ends up being named the head of the massive newly formed Cal faction entirely by accident. He is the most powerful mob boss in the kingdom, and guys, he's literally just trying to eat grilled sweet potatoes in peace.
Which brings us to Section 3, the labyrinth constraint loophole, true min-maxing. This is absolutely crucial.
So, political power is cool and all, but it isn't enough in a fantasy game where monsters and magic are very real. Elon has to overcome his severe physical limitations. You see, he was hit with the ultimate nerf. He was born with a tiny monohole. In this universe, a monohole is kind of like an athlete's body type. It's just fixed from birth. No matter how much he trains, he is permanently restricted to weak second circle magic. In a world where high-tier magic is essential for survival, this is a literal death sentence.
But, as we'll see, this builds into his most genius exploit. To fix this, Alon ventures into the Whispering Labyrinth, also known as the Labyrinth of Palilion. And because he has the game's walkthrough entirely memorized, he easily solves the riddles, bypasses the boss fights, and claims a specific reward, the Black Ring. This ring utilizes a game mechanic called a constraint. Basically, it's an absorption-type artifact that imposes severe, absolute restrictions on the user, but in exchange for those nerfs, it grants immense rule-breaking power. When the Labyrinth asks what he wants, Alan gives this exact, totally chilling quote, "I need the power to twist the laws of the world a little more." Think about that. He isn't asking for a bigger mana hole. He is specifically trading convenience for raw, game-breaking output. He is straight up hacking the physics engine of the game world. So the crucial point here is the exact trade-off Alon makes. He's choosing two massive restrictions. Rule 1. In all spellcasting, the complex hand seals of the forgotten god Babaloya are absolutely required. Rule 2. Only the sacred words of Babaloya may be used. By stacking these two severe penalties, meaning it takes way longer and is infinitely more complicated to cast even a basic spell, the Labyrinth grants him a massive buff. His weak second circle magic is amplified tenfold. He willingly sacrifices all his cast speed and convenience just to maximize his damage. This is pure, unadulterated min-maxing at its finest. And Alon doesn't just stop at acquiring the power either. He puts in months of tactical research to optimize it. He figures out how to string these Babaloya phrases together like lines of code. Chanting refraction expands the area of effect. Repulsion alters the projectile form. Blue light enhances lightning magic, and linear diffraction grants armor penetration for critical hits. By arranging these phrases perfectly, like chanting fixation, compression, collapse, fleeting, full bloom, he turns a pathetic, low-tier magical spark into a catastrophic, earth-shattering lightning strike. He's literally rewriting weak spells into ultimate attacks.
All right, Section 4, Surviving the Outer Gods. Let's see this in action.
Theory crafting is one thing, right? But what happens when this tactical build is actually put to the ultimate test? Well, there's a fatal flaw to Alon's overpowered build. The constraint magic works perfectly when he wipes out an entire mutant goblin army. But because his mana hole is still tiny, using these hyper-amplified spells immediately drains his mana to absolutely zero. Actually, scratch that. It's more like he can cast maybe 3 or 4 spells a day, and then he's completely empty, terrified, and totally vulnerable. And this brilliantly illustrates why Alon's true weapon isn't just magic, it's his knowledge of the game's systems. When the terrifying outer god Eudalis descends upon the northern battlefield, Alon doesn't try to outpunch him, there's no way. Instead, he challenges the god to a duel of barbarian, invoking an ancient pact. This immediately forces the literal god of destruction into a rigid, turn-based game mechanic. Under these rules, the challenged entity attacks first, the defender cannot move outside their turn, and opponents must swap positions at the end of a turn. He traps a god in a board game. It's genius. So Eudalis launches a devastating, world-ending attack. Alon takes it head-on, surviving only by secretly using a high-tier healing potion and an artifact right at the exact moment of impact. But by taking that hit and surviving in a near-dead state, he unlocks the true power of another artifact, the Ring of the Mad One. Now it's Alon's turn, and he passionately stacks 4 massive situational multipliers to his constraint. Magic used in extreme cold, magic used in a near-dead state, magic used against a god, and magic used specifically against the god Eudalis. He combines all these twisted laws to fire off one single mathematically perfect counterattack. The attack hits, and it drains Alon's mana entirely. Now, while it doesn't kill the god, it doesn't actually have to. The outer god Eudalis is so astounded by Alon's perfect defense, his honorable duel mechanics, and his sheer manipulation of the world's laws that he just acknowledges defeat. Eudalis evaporates, granting Alon his belt and the authority of the Wicked One. Alon wins the boss fight not with raw power, but by flawlessly exploiting the game's rules, its items, and turn-based constraints. It's an absolute masterclass in survival. Alon Palacio proves that an encyclopedic knowledge of the system, a willingness to min-max crippling constraints, and treating a life-or-death fantasy world as a hardcore strategy game can conquer literal gods. But it leaves us with this final really provocative thought to take away from this explainer. If you manipulate the code, rewrite the destinies of the main characters, and twist the fundamental laws of the world just to survive, are you really still just a player in the game? Or have you, ultimately, become the new developer?